Hello, today is July 27th. I'm Michael Walsh. I work at the Yonkers Public Library. I'm currently in Tuckahoe, New York, and I'm here with Ruth Kambar, who's a representative of the Assyrian Studies Association. We are here today with Alice David. Before proceeding with the interview, Alice, could you just state your name and what your current location is?
I'm Alice Aziz David, and I am in White Plains.
Do you give us permission to catalog your interview and make it available to the Yonkers Public Library digital collection, as well as the Assyrian Studies Association, the Library of Congress, and available to scholars, researchers, and students for educational purposes?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. Okay. Do you know why you received the name from your parents?
I was named after an aunt on my father's side.
Oh, okay. And when and where were you born?
I was born in Yonkers, New York,
Where did you live in Yonkers?
on Buena Vista Avenue mostly, and then Saratoga Avenue.
When you were growing up in Yonkers, did you visit any specific places, like stores or parks, anything like that?
Yes, I lived near Sunset Park and store. Let's see, Janung's was there in Getty Square. Minnie's, um, Woolworths, Crabs. What else was there? A Weber's Bakery on Riverdale, a Bluebell Bakery on Riverdale, Amy's Candy Store, Doc Schreiner's Drugstore, Weiss's Fruits and Vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
They were all there.
Oh, nice. And was there activities and programs that you participated in with your family in Yonkers?
Yes, we went to the Assyrian club parties, was the old Assyrian club on Riverdale Avenue. They had a yard in the back where sometimes they had picnics. We would go to the Assyrian Presbyterian picnic, which was, as far as I remember, usually held in Trevor Park. We went to dances if there were any. We also traveled to Connecticut to the Assyrian community there when they had affairs.
And what town was that in Connecticut?
Mainly New Britain, Connecticut.
How big was the Assyrian American community in Yonkers at the time?
Oh, I don't know, over more than 100 people, 150 maybe at that time.
Who lived in your Yonkers household with you?
My mother and father, my sister Marion, my brother Joseph, and my father's father lived with us also.
What is the birth order of your siblings and you?
My sister Marion let me see, they were married in 1932, she was born. God forbid she's going to kill me. My brother was born in Joseph in 1934, and I was born in 1939.
What are your parents' full names?
My father was Paulus, if you said it in Assyrian, translated to Paul Aziz. My mother was Catherine Benjamin, then became Aziz. She was named after the Russian Queen Catherine with the C.
Interesting. When did they meet?
Here actually, they met in New Britain, Connecticut.
Oh,
My
okay. And
mother
then,
went to Connecticut from when she migrated here, and my father came 2 years later, stayed in Connecticut for a couple of months. Then he came to Yonkers. It was mainly to get work.
oh, I see. Are your siblings still living?
Yes,
Oh, okay. And where do they live?
my sister lives in Pleasantville, New York, and my brother lives in Kensington, Connecticut.
Oh, okay. Um, what are your grandparents' names? And where do they live?
Let's see, my grandfather, my father's side was Zaya Aziz. His wife's name was Miriam. My grandfather, my mother's side was Isaac Benjamin, and my grandmother's name was Sarah. It was spelled Sara.
Does your family have a religious background?
Yes, I'm from the Assyrian Eastern Church.
Oh, okay. Um,
That's
does it,
Mari. So you know. Sorry.
oh, okay. Um, and does your family still practice this religion?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Okay. Were there any language barriers between generations of your family?
no, we were just born into the family and they always spoke Assyrian and we all understood it. I didn't speak it well until years later when being active in church and the migration of people came that couldn't speak English, so I had to learn to speak Assyrian. I could say words, but never sentences. But we all understood it.
What was your household like growing up?
A lovely one. Family was all important.
Hmm.
We weren't rich, but we didn't know we were poor. We were like everyone else. Um, that's it. We were very happy. It was the good times.
So what schools did you attend in Yonkers?
I went to PS number 19, then Hawthorne Middle School, and then Commerce High School.
And did you like going to school when you were younger?
Yes,
Okay. And what did you do after high school?
I worked for Gall and Bell Insurance Company in Yonkers for a few months, and then I got a job in New York City at Sinclair Refining Company and worked there until I was pregnant. At that time, when you were 6 months pregnant, you had to leave work.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, did your parents go to school? Do you know?
My mother went to school for about a year, but she wasn't very smart. That's what I was told. So she left school.
Hmm. And how about your father?
No, my father was older when he came here.
Oh, okay. And do you know anything about the education of your grandparents?
As far as I know, oh, my grandparents? No, the only ones that would teach them would be the priest at the church. And mainly they taught them, the religious prayers and songs. My father could read in Assyrian. and that he learned from the priest at the church. My mother couldn't read Assyrian because the girls didn't go.
Mhm. Did you and your family, you said that you went to the Eastern Church in Yonkers, right?
Well,
And
originally we didn't have one.
right.
You would attend St. John's Episcopal Church in Getty Square.
Mhm.
And when I became a teenager, St. Andrew's Episcopal Church let us use their church for an hour or so after they were finished with their services. And we had a priest that came once a month from New Britain, Connecticut, to give us Holy Communion. And then later, I don't know, remember the year, we bought a three-family house on Buena Vista Avenue. And we bought some more property there, and that's where we built the new church, which was 50 years ago. Would have been our anniversary this year in October.
Oh, wow. So growing up, what Assyrian activities did you participate in?
Different church affairs, mainly dances, dinners, breakfasts. If the club had a party or something we went to, we were usually invited to different Assyrian weddings at the time. They're big weddings and everybody was always invited.
What were the occupations of your parents?
My father was a house painter, and during the war, my mother worked in Habishaw, where they made cables. She always used to be very proud and said she made the cables for the tunnel. And later she worked for US Vitamin, but mostly she was a homemaker.
Okay. All right. So I can turn this part of the interview over to Ruth.
Okay. So Alice, if I were to ask you, what does it mean to you to be Assyrian?
Means everything, I guess. I've always been taught to be very proud of who I am and what I am. My father was very proud to have become an American citizen. He never missed voting, whether it was a primary or a regular presidential election, anything. He said when he became a citizen, that was his right, and he took that very strongly, because in his country, they had no say in anything. And it was very important for him also to become a citizen.
Thank you. And both of your parents are Assyrian, and so you already talked to us about your language. I'm going through the questions here. Do you speak any other languages?
I had a little bit of Latin in Hawthorne, but that's it.
Okay. So you studied. And can you read the actual classical liturgical language if you're in church?
No, I read the one they kind of made it in English sounding.
Okay, the
The
phonetic.
letters of the English language, but to sound like the Assyrian word.
Gotcha. And what Assyrian traditions did your parents practice in the house? Were there any?
Well, I guess, I don't know, maybe my mother cooking only Assyrian food. We did play music, but mainly turned out to be Armenian and Turkish music. They didn't have Assyrian records out at the time. We learned how to dance, Assyrian dances. We learned to pray in Assyrian.
Do you know any of the Assyrian dances by name?
Um, the Shekhanah, uh, the regular dance, the Philadelphia step, which there was a Tanzara.
Okay, going back to food, what's your favorite Assyrian dish?
Dolma, grape leaves, stuffed grape leaves
Me too. Me too.
with homemade yogurt on top.
That was my question. Do you prefer it with Mesta? Yes. Mine too. Okay, and do you know whether the preparation of any foods that your mom made or taught you how to make changed a little bit from Persia to here?
No, not really. My daughter does the cooking now. I haven't cooked in 25 years or more. She gets a lot of her spices from some Assyrian in California or something that sends them to her. So she gets all the old spices and uses them for cooking.
Great. Okay. Do you know any Assyrian games?
Well, they used to play a game with bones. My father-in-law did that, I remember. And my mother used to play a game with us when we were little with our fingers. Can you see my hand?
No, you gotta
Like
lift
this.
it. Yeah.
And then you would put your hand here and she would say, go up. In the Syrian, you'd go up. And there was supposed to be a rabbit inside here, in here. And you were supposed to put your hand in and try and get it out, kept a hold of it. And then there was a game with the string. You put string on your hand and you made, I think other people besides Assyrians did that. They didn't have they didn't have toys or anything, so they kind of made up games to play.
Yeah.
And I guess string was even a valuable thing to have.
Do you know what the game with the bones was called or how you play it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But
I actually,
Darius might know.
okay, I have some. I have my grandfather's actually.
Oh, okay.
We used to call them Rishekla, and I'm seeing on the internet that that's not literal, so I don't know.
Oh,
I
well,
thought,
they probably got the bones from there. They usually made that for New Year's. It was a food, recycler. It's 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 bones in a broth. I didn't like it.
yeah, well, I understand. um, can you tell me about your parents' immigration to the United States?
Okay.
Where were
Uh,
these?
my,
How did they come over?
my mom came from Tekka, and the only thing that separated Tekka and Edzashai was a little creek, but they still called Tekka once I Edzashai. She came here with her mother, her brother, who was 13. My mother was 10 when they left. My uncle was 13. My grandmother brought her cousin's daughter. She brought a wife for my uncle, and another cousin, William, came. They were left behind. Their parents had already migrated, and they were left there. So my grandmother brought them with her. They had to travel at night through the mountains. They were making their way to the camps in Iraq in Bakuba that were run by the English. And they would have to travel at night and then hide in the bushes or trees because the Turks were still coming after them. And my uncle on my mother's side had been in First World War. And after he came out, he went back to the old country and wanted them all to leave. At the time, my grandmother had said no, not yet, maybe in a couple of years. But he came back and brought his middle brother with him. Then when my grandfather was killed, he was a farmer and had gone to the city to sell his produce. And on his way back, they had seen him with money, so they killed him. And the only reason we know he had a servant with him, and the servant they thought they had killed also, but he didn't. He was wounded, and then the next morning he made his way back home. And then after that is when my grandmother left, and they left. And let's see, my mother was born in they left in 1910. 1910. And got here. No, I'm sorry. They got here in 1923. They left when Mama was 13. It took them 2 or 3 years to get here. They lived in the camps almost 2 years. And then I don't know how they got to wherever they left from. They left on the Star of India, is what I was told. My father was in Russia when my grandmother and aunt were killed, and they were told that by other people. So, and that's what we know. And he was there with his, what?
That's your dad's parents killed? Your father's parents were killed?
My father's family, the Aziz side. My mother and Aunt Miriam were killed. My grandfather, my uncle, and my father were in Russia. They would go there to paint and then come back home for maybe a month or so in the winter. And my father, that was one thing that he hated about his country and would never go back, was that a 10-year-old boy could be taken from his mother and have to go to another country, leave his mother and go to work. And then so they left from Russia, never came back to Iran, and they made their way to Turkey. He lives in Istanbul for 2 years, made some money, and then they made their way to Marseille, France, lived in Marseille for 2 years till they get money for passage to come to America. My father came here, I had the year somewhere, 19, what do I have here? 1925, came to Ellis Island. Oh, they both came through Ellis Island. And the first time my father had ice cream was when he was at Ellis Island. The main thing he talked about.
Before, when you said your mom was killed, you meant your grandmother, correct?
What was that?
You said your mother was killed before. You meant your grandmother, correct?
I meant my father's mother was killed, and his sister.
Okay. So your mom's family came through Bakuba, and your father's went up through Russia and then across to Istanbul and Marseille. And
right.
Great. Okay. Do you know who sponsored the family when they arrived?
I don't know who sponsored my father, but I know that my mother's oldest brother was here, the one that was in World War I, also with his other brother. So they must have come through because of my uncle. And my mother never had a passport. She came through on her mother's passport because she was young. But my father had a passport, which I have some.
And when they arrived, did your family live among other Assyrians? Automatically, they knew where to go?
Yes, my mother and them went to Connecticut because that's where New Britain, where my uncle was. And that's where they lived. And my father went to Connecticut also. I don't know why, but they only stayed about 2 months and then came to Yonkers for work. Somebody was going to give them work here in Yonkers.
And because some of these you covered, so I'm going back over them. Are there any particular artifacts that you have from the old country or in your house that are Assyrian?
What do I have? No, not really. I have a chain that my grandfather made, but I believe he made it here. It was supposedly made from one piece of wood. He was very artistic and crafty. Um, he used to paint stained glass windows, and when they were building the George Washington Bridge, he would go up to the bridge every day and paint the pictures as they were doing construction.
Yeah.
In fact, on his way home, Ruth will like this. My grandfather saw girls in the store, children playing jump rope. They were doing double dutch actually, and he stopped to watch because he was trying to figure out how they were doing it. Well, somebody saw him and called the police and said, "There's a man watching the children." So they came. My grandfather couldn't speak a word of English except hello, goodbye, and 3 French bread. And they took him to jail. And who did they call? Thank God, was Mr. David Jacobs, who went down. Yeah, he was the Assyrian that helped everyone. And he went down there and said, asked my grandfather what he had been doing, and my grandfather told him, and then they started laughing, and then he tells the police what he was doing. So they released my grandfather. But
Dave Jacobs is my uncle and my cousin. I'm related to him 2 different ways. But he was a person that also brought a lot of people over, and he was here early, so he knew a lot of people.
I see.
And okay, let me see. My document froze for a second. Hold on, sorry about that. So
the tradition of how they got married, the Assyrians in the old times. Well, if a boy liked a girl, he would tell his parents, and if they thought she was okay, they would get a group of, would be the father, not the mother, father, and if there was an older brother, he would go, and maybe a few cousins, and they would go to the girl's house, talk with the parents, and see if they were okay with this. If they were okay with this, then they would have to go with a whole bunch of other people at another time, and the men would sit in one room and the women in another room, and then there would be a representative from the man's side would come into the room, talk to the girl, and ask her if she wanted to get married. Well, they would tell the girl, don't say yes right away. So they would make the person go back and then come back 2 or 3 times, and then the girl finally would say yes, she was willing to get married. And that's how they got, and they didn't get engaged till they went to church and had the ring blessed, and then they were engaged. And then they would prepare for a wedding. Weddings usually were for 2 days. And yeah.
Do you know where your parents got married?
What?
Where did your parents get married?
They were married in a church in New Britain, Connecticut. It was St. Mark's Episcopal Church. And then they drove from there to Yonkers. And there was a hall on the corner of Lawrence Street and Broadway. No, Lawrence Street and Saratoga Avenue. And they had their wedding, their reception there for 2 days. And my father also was the custom that he paid for the bride's dress and all the women that my aunt decided to, or the woman would invite. And he would have to pay for all the women's dresses.
Thank you. So, have you ever wished that you could go to live in Iran, or have you ever visited?
I always wished that I could go, but I never got, but I wanted to do that since I was a child. But at the time that they went there, my children were very young, and my mother was going, and I had no one to watch my children, so I didn't go. But
so your mom did get to return to Iran?
My mother did. My father would never go back.
Okay.
He hated, he said, I made my money in America, I'll spend my money in America. But my mother went back for the Shah's coronation or whatever he had, his party.
Okay. Wow. Did she see him also when he was in Washington? You know?
No,
Okay. Do you know of another particular story, a family story that you would like to share with us today?
no, not that I can think of.
Okay. Is there anything maybe I didn't ask that you may want to share?
Oh, no. Oh, we went to parties. I also forgot about speakers at Assyrian history at the club and the flag raising at City Hall.
About the flag
trying to
raising
think.
and
Go ahead.
tell us about the flag raisings at City Hall.
We've had several of them, actually. I think three or four. The first time was very, very moving for me to see our flag flying there. It was done, I think, because of John Constantine, who was the legal counsel for Yonkers City Councilman, and he made that happen. And we had a few of the women sang. They sang a couple of songs in Assyrian. In fact, there's a song about the Assyrian flag called Ya'ahuni.
And do you know what that translates to?
My brother, Ya'ahuni, my brother.
Yeah. Clooney, yeah.
Yeah.
And would you tell us a little about your own family right now, your children?
Okay. I also married an Assyrian. Actually, he was from the Presbyterian church. This was a big deal. He was from the Presbyterian church, and I was from the Orthodox church. We got married in my church. He went to his church, and I went to my church. And that went on until I became pregnant with my first daughter. And one day, as I was normally would drop him off, he said, "No, keep going. I'm going to church with you today." I thought nothing of it. And he came, and from then on, he said, "A family should go to church together. So I'm coming to church with you." And that was because their minister was retiring. I think if the Assyrian church still stayed there, he would have continued to go because that's where he was raised. But because the minister was retiring and then they were going to go to an American church, he came and joined our church and became very active in our church. He was on the building committee, one of the three to be on the building committee for our church. And at times he was president and vice president. And we've always been very active in church. I've been a president. I was the first woman president in our parish here in Yonkers. I have a scholarship fund there that I have had for 26 years now. I've given away more than $160,000, which I'm very happy about. It was something my husband wanted me to establish. That was not me that wanted it. But it has helped many of our children to continue to go on with their education. And happy to say we even have a Harvard student who will be going back for a second year. So it's been very good for me, made me feel better, but it was all his idea. I've just made it go on. I do the work. It was his idea and I got to do the work. But it's very rewarding.
And tell us.
Got married. So we're married. I have 2 daughters. I have 4 grandchildren. Two were married. One is about to be married, hopefully. And my grandson is not married. And my daughter, neither of my daughters actually married Assyrians. They both married Italians, but they're wonderful son-in-laws. Especially my daughter Laura's husband, because he's the one who sacrificed a lot for our family. When my husband was sick, they came to live with me and help take care of him. And then when my mother became crippled, they moved in again, and we took care of my mother for 2.5 years because of them. So I have wonderful children, wonderful grandchildren. Families are very important with the Syrians. As Ruth can tell you, we're very tight with our family.
Yeah. Where do your children live and your grandchildren?
Actually, I live with my oldest daughter, Laura, here in White Plains, and her husband. And my granddaughter lives downstairs with her husband, and my grandson lives here also. And my other daughter lives in Long Island. She unfortunately became a widow 2 years ago. Her oldest daughter is married. Her other daughter lives in New Jersey and is engaged to be married in November.
Very nice.
And that's our life.
Alice,
So far.
thank you so much. Really.
Oh, I went to Turkey because I couldn't get to go to Iran. I should have said that. I always wanted to go to Iran, but there was no way for me to go or no reason for me to go. And my girlfriend's family was from Turkey, and she said, let's go. And I thought that would be the closest I would come to Iran until the opportunity almost arose a few years ago. And then a bunch of women were going to go, and that just didn't come about. But someday, I still have a few more years in me, so there's still time for me to go.
When did you go to Turkey?
Actually, when my daughter was about to get married. Joanne, we went around 1980.
Okay.
And around there. We were one of the first Americans, at least they would say, that we started the trend of people going after that. My travel agent said, oh, you're the first ones I'm sending to Turkey. And then right after that, she started getting people going to Turkey. I did the same thing for her going to Morocco. Then she never sent anybody to Morocco. And then after that, she had about 10 people going there. Oh.
Did you have any?
Go ahead.
Oh, did you have any mixed feelings about going to Turkey?
No.
No.
No. My father enjoyed his time in Turkey. I mean, because of what had happened? No. It was from a long time ago, and no.
Oh, I see.
Alice, thank you.
You're welcome. I can't think of anything else. I even wrote down some stuff one day, but I think I told you everything.
Okay.
Yeah, well, thanks so much.
You're welcome. No,
You were
I
gonna
was
say
just going to say, yes, I was going to say, like, they didn't like to talk a lot about them leaving and how they got here and everything because of all. Finally, one day, my mother opened up when I guess we were all, my sister and I were all married, and so it was beyond. And she did tell us of some of the bad things of seeing women starving and women throwing their babies on the road because they had no more milk to feed them, and the babies wouldn't stop crying, and she said how horrible things were. And that's all she ever said about it, was only all the horrible things. And that's it, I guess. But that was all that they never didn't talk about it too much because it just was, I guess, brought back too many bad things for them.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think that's it.
Okay. I thank you. Take care of yourself. Please be safe.